let me 1 second fix something before I record it, because apparently I don't have space to record it. We'll go ahead and give this a shot. Yeah, so hopefully everybody can now see my screen, and I'm going to turn my webcam off so that you can all see what I'm doing. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to talk about is actually the difference between AIFS and ECES, which is the host program at Charles University that will be hosting you while you're abroad. So I don't know, Micah, if you are able to chime in if you'd like to.
Can someone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Because if I talk, I cannot hear myself, so if someone could just write something if they can hear me, that would be great. Perfect. Hello, everyone. I'm Micah. Maybe I even managed to turn on the camera quickly. Hello. And then like this. Hello. Hello, everyone. I turn it off as well now. Yeah, basically I'm the resident director here in Prague for AIFS, and I work together with Katie and the other ECS staff, and we also have more staff to kind of like give you a really smooth and nice semester here. You can pretty much see everything actually on the bullet points, but I guess the kind of like most important difference is that we organize everything apart from the academics for you guys. As you can see, ECS does the big bullet point academics, but they also offer various other things which are in addition to the things we offer, which are seen on your left-hand side. We have a student center. We will be sending you lots of cultural activities throughout newsletters. We do your housing, which is the main difference as well to the other ECS students. We have our own emergency phone. We're also dealing with all the US side of things, so we are the ones who will be sending you transcripts out. We are the ones that are in touch with your study abroad advisors and so on. And of course, we'll kind of like also give you lots more information on site. We have a big long orientation and workshops and so on. Just because I cannot hear Katie, I'll just switch off my mic and I hand it over to you, Katie, yes?
Okay, so I think as Micah mentioned, and I'll just go ahead and mute her so we don't have the background audio, but in case you need to say something, Micah, type to me and I'll turn you back on. So as Micah mentioned, ECES and Charles University offers the academic portion of your program. So we're responsible for all of your courses, your transcripts, all of this kind of stuff. So if you have any academic related questions, I will be your go-to person for that. But for most other things, Michael will be your contact person, except in case of emergency, when of course we're all happy to help you. So the first thing that we're going to go through is the Czech visa application process, which looks very complicated. You can see on my screen actually all of the documents that you'll be required to submit as a part of this application. But we're going to go through each document step by step, and I promise as soon as we explain it, then it won't be as complicated. Hopefully you'll understand everything that's required of you. So the first thing that we're going to go through is the visa application form. This is the form that I emailed you earlier today, the sample of and also the blank form. So I'll go ahead and pull up now the blank or the sample form so that you can actually go along with me. And let me see if I have it. I have it somewhere. Give me 1 second and I will pull it up. So we're going to go through this sample application form step by step, and so I encourage you, if you can, to fill it out alongside me. Otherwise, I encourage you to refer back to the sample that I sent you via email so that way you can understand what exactly all of these points mean. So I'll start going through this, and we'll start with number 1. So when you're writing on this application form, you should be writing in blue or black pen, block capital letters, and as clearly as possible. So please try and write very neatly on this form because this is obviously what they'll use to process your application. So it's very important that all of your details are clearly legible. So the first is number 1, which is your last name, so just your surname here. Number 2, you can leave blank as long as you haven't had another surname at some point in your life. Number 3 is your first name and your middle name only if it appears in your passport. So check your passports and see exactly how your name appears there, and you should write it the same exact way here. So keep in mind that Czech people don't typically have middle names, so for official documents in the Czech Republic, your middle name will actually be part of your first name, which is why it's all written in one space here. Number 4 is your date of birth, and be sure to write this in day, month, year format. Any official documents that you submit in the Czech Republic should be written in day, month, year format. Number 5 is your place of birth. So this will be the city and state, and the state should be totally spelled out, not the abbreviation. And then directly underneath, you'll put your country of birth. For most of you, this will be USA. If you have a different country of birth, please let me know and I can find your country code for you. For number 6, your original nationality will likely, for most of you, be USA. And for number 7, your current nationality, again, for most of you, will probably be USA. So you can put that in all of these boxes. For number 8, you'll tick the appropriate box. Just put a big X through it. And then for number 9, again, you'll tick the appropriate box. For number 10, you should write your father's last name on the first line. And then on the line underneath, you should write his first name. And for number 11, you should put your mother's current surname, her legal last name, and on the second line, her first name. For number 12, you'll tick the appropriate box. For the large majority of you, it should be ordinary passport. And then for number 13, it will be your passport number. So this is a good time to check to be sure that your passport will be valid for at least 6 months past the end of the program, which is in June 2018. So if it isn't, then you will need to apply for a new passport. But I hope that all of you have passports which will be valid. If for whatever reason your passport is in the process of being renewed or something like this, don't write your passport number here yet. Wait until you get the new one because this passport number will have to match the one that you use to apply for your visa and also the one that you'll use to travel with for the whole semester. For number 14, again, the majority of it will be USA. And then for number 15, it will be the date of issue for the passport, which again will be in day, month, year format. And for number 16, again, the validity date, which will be in day, month, year format. So once you're done with that section, you can go to the next page. Number 17, you'll probably leave this blank. So unless you currently reside in a country that's different than your country of origin, you should leave it blank. If you are currently living in a country which is different than your country of origin, please let me know, and I can let you know what to fill in here. For number 18, your occupation for the purposes of the visa will be student. And this applies even if you have another full or part-time job. For your application for the visa, it has to be student because you're applying for a student visa. And then for number 19, the employer will actually be your home university. So this is an example of a university, but you should write your own home university. So I don't know, University of Michigan, and then the university address and phone number or wherever you are currently attending. For number 20, you can copy this exactly. This is the name of our university. So you'll have to write it exactly as it's written here on this form because that's the only way it fits in the boxes. So you'll write Charles space University and then a comma between the Y and the F, and then Faculty of Arts will be all one word. For number 21, this is the address of our university, so you will copy this exactly. And this is Namjestiyana Polaka. It's spelled Namesti space Jana space Palacha. And then it's number 2 in Praha 1. Praha is Czech for Prague. The zip code is 11638. The state code for the Czech Republic is CZE. And our telephone number is +420, which is the country code for Czech Republic, 733-610-173. Unless you've been in the Czech Republic before for longer than 3 months, you can leave number 22 blank. For number 23, if you're living at the Masarykova dorm, which is the dorm that AIFS provides for you, you'll write this address. If you're living in private accommodation, I'm not sure, Micah, if anybody is, but if you're living outside of the Masarykova dorm, you should write the address of your private accommodation. Number 24 should be blank because your postal address will be the same as your residency address. And your visa is requested for 104 days, and this is true no matter if you plan to travel before the program starts or after the program starts. The visa has to be for exactly the number of days of the program. Any other days beyond that will be covered by your automatic tourist visa, which allows you to be in the Schengen zone for 90 days out of 180 days, every 180 days. So the Schengen zone is that border-free region in Europe, and so you're allowed to stay within that zone for about 3 months in every 6 months. But this visa doesn't count towards that. This is separate because it's your student visa, so it has to be 104. Unless you've had a visa for the Czech Republic, you can leave number 26 blank. If you've never had another visa for the Schengen zone, which is that border-free region in Europe, you can leave number 27 blank. And then you'll scroll to the next page. Number 28, you'll tick study, and again, it has to be study here for the purposes of this visa. For number 29, you will put your date of arrival, which is the program start date. So that's September 4th, 2017, and again in day, month, year format, 04/09/2017. And your date of departure will again be the program end date, so that's 16/12/2017. Your place of entry in the Czech Republic will likely be Praha or Prague. And your mean of transport will likely be a plane, so you can write plane. And then for number 33, your inviting legal person will be the director of our program here in Prague, whose name is Jitka Stepničková. So that's Jitka space Stepničkova. And the rest of this you can copy exactly. So all of number 33 you can copy exactly as it appears here. For number 34, the manner of funding your stay will be yourself, and this applies even if you have scholarships or grants or something else like that, it has to be yourself. So just put an X through that box. For number 35, the means of support during your stay will likely be cash and credit cards. We do not encourage you to bring traveler's checks. They're not really widely accepted anymore, and they're a bit of a hassle. So we encourage you to tick just cash and credit cards. And then you'll also have to tick at the bottom this box, which is travel and or health insurance. And AIFS will be providing you with a travel insurance or a student health insurance certificate, and you'll put the expiration date of this student travel insurance here in the box here. So don't write this, but write whatever it is that's on the certificate which AIFS provides to you. So if you're done with that page, you can go to the next. And actually, if you don't have a spouse or children, you can skip the entire next page. So as long as you're not married and you don't have any children, you can leave that whole page blank. And on the last page, you'll put your permanent address. So for most of you, this should be the address which is on your driver's license. So before you start writing, just count out the boxes because a lot of addresses don't fit into these boxes. And if for some reason your address doesn't fit, you can continue it in this blank space here, just to the right of the telephone number box, but count it out first so that you can have entire words underneath if you have to. So you should put the street, the city, and the state spelled out, and then also USA at the end. Your telephone number should also be included, and this should be a telephone number where you're easily reached. So put +1, which is the country code for the US, and then the area code and phone number. And for number 40, you'll put your email address here. So this should also be an email address which you check regularly, because if there's an issue with your visa application, this is the first place that they'll go to contact you. So be sure that this is an email address that you actually look at. And then once you've filled all of that out, you can go to the bottom. In the top left box, you'll put today's date, so 23-5-2017. And in the top right box, you'll sign. And that's actually the visa application form. So that is fairly simple, and I hope that that was clear. But if you have any questions about the form that you need me to go back to, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer those. The next document that you'll have is one that you either already have or will be receiving soon, which is your document confirming the purpose of stay. And it looks like this. It's all in Czech, and it will have your name, date of birth, and nationality. And in the bottom right corner, you can't see it here, but it will have a round blue stamp that says FFUK. And this you actually don't need to do anything with. This is just the document which confirms from the university that you'll be studying at the university for the dates which you say you're studying for. The next document is one of probably the most complicated, and it's a combination of two documents. This is the document confirming sufficient financial resources. So the first thing that you need is the copy of the front and back of a credit or debit card which is in your name. And this photocopy needs to be notarized. So some notaries in the U.S. won't notarize photocopies like this because it's a bit strange in the U.S. to notarize a photocopy. It's not very typical. So if they give you a hard time about notarizing the photocopy, you can just write on the paper something like, I certify that this is an original copy of my credit or debit card, and then when you get to the notary, you can sign that statement in front of them, and they'll notarize your signature of that statement. Which will then notarize also the photocopy. So this is sort of the way around that, which is an American Czech cultural difference. The next document, which is arguably more important, we have a question. So can you get it notarized at the bank? A lot of banks do have notaries, but you should call your bank first to check if they have a notary, because not all do. So in most cases, yes, you can get notarizations done at the bank, but check first. And if not, maybe your town hall. I know in my hometown, my town hall has a notary, so you can check there too. The next document is a bank account statement. So this bank account statement needs to be a checking account, and it needs to be attached to the credit or debit card which you have photocopied and notarized. It needs to be in your name, and it needs to show a minimum balance of at least $3,000 US. It's better if you can have a little bit more than 3,000 USD in the account, because this is based on current exchange rates. So in case the exchange rates fluctuate, this will make sure that you actually have enough in the account to fulfill the requirement. If you don't have a checking account that's in your name, which has this minimum balance, what you can do, and what many students do, is ask somebody, for instance a parent, to transfer the required funds into your account in order for you to get a statement with that amount. An online statement is fine, so if money is transferred into your account, you can print off a bank account statement from your online account, and that will be sufficient. This document does not need to be notarized. It just needs to go along with the credit or debit card, which the photocopy is notarized. So I encourage you to do that if you do not have a checking account with at least $3,000 in it in your name. But it's very important that the bank account is in your name, and that the statement shows your name, the date, and the minimum balance of $3,000. Does anybody have any questions about that? I don't see any popping up, but in case you do, let me know and I'll come back to it. The next document that you need is one which AIFS will send to you along with the confirmation of acceptance, and it will probably look something like this. This is the document confirming that you'll be living at the Masarykova dormitory. If you're living in private accommodation, you will not have this document. You'll have to get a document from the owner of that apartment. And again, I'm not sure if anybody here is living in private accommodation, but if you are and you have questions about that, please feel free to contact me. The next document that you need is this criminal history background affidavit. So as American citizens, this will suffice. You don't need to get an actual background check done. So you'll go ahead and fill out this document, which you can find on the consulate websites, on the ministry websites. It's also linked to in the pre-departure guide. So fill out the top section, which is your given name. That's your first name and middle name if it appears in your passport. Your surname. You can leave maiden name blank if you don't have one. Your date of birth, which again is in day, month, year format. Your place of birth, which if it's in the U.S. should be the city and the state. Your nationality, which will likely be USA. Your passport number, your permanent address, which is the same from your application, and then your phone number and email, which again are the same from the application. So for the phone number +1, and then the area code phone number, and an email address which you regularly check. Do not sign this form now because you will need to also take this to the notary. So when you go to get the copy of your credit or debit card notarized, you should also bring this to have this form notarized. And these are the only two documents that need to be notarized for the application. Okay, so we'll go to the next. So that's actually the end of the required documents for you. You'll also need to have the health insurance contract that I mentioned that AIFS will send to you, as that is a requirement. So I'll go back here to the list of required documents so that I can go through and explain exactly how this will work. So for all of the documents, as you can see, you need a photocopy of each. So for every document that you submit, you should submit the original +1 photocopy. You'll also need to submit 2 recent passport photos. So these are the types of photos that you would get at CVS, for example. It's just your face on the white background, the same kind of photo you would submit if you were applying for a passport. And then you need to submit your original passport book, the actual passport, plus 2 photocopies of the data page. And I'll also mention that you should keep 1 photocopy of every single thing you submit, including especially your passport, for yourself. So anytime you submit really important documents like this, you should always keep 1 copy for yourself, but you'll need to submit 1 photocopy to the consulate, 2 of the passport. Now, in order to determine which consulate you should be applying at, I'll go to the pre-departure guide. So this is a document that I sent to you today as well. And on page 4, you'll see this list. So find the state where your permanent address is. So this is where you're permanently registered, the address on your driver's license, not necessarily the state where your school is. So example, if you're from Kansas, you will apply in Chicago. If you're in Utah, you'll apply in Los Angeles. So look and see where your state is assigned to, which consulate or embassy you're assigned to apply at, and that's where you'll submit your application. If you are unable to apply in person, you should mail your application and passport to the appropriate consulate, and it needs to be sent in a USPS, a U.S. Postal Service express mail envelope, and with that envelope you should have every kind of tracking and insurance that is possible to attach to it, because you're putting your actual passport in the mail, so it's really important that it's as secure as possible. And then if you're unable to go physically to pick up your visa, your passport after the visa has been processed, you should include inside of the original envelope that you're mailing your application in a second envelope, which is also USPS express mail, tracked, insured, etc. So that way they can send your passport back to you. Now, if you can go to the consulate or embassy that you're assigned to submit your application in person, that's definitely the more preferred option. And that just is because it's a bit safer. You know that for example, you're dropping your passport off and you know when it's arrived there, a lot of the time the person at the embassy or consulate will flip through your application documents to see if everything looks correct. And also it's one less time that you have to put your passport in the mail. So if you can manage to go to drop it off and then pick it up, that's ideal. If not, it's absolutely fine. I would say the majority of our students submit their visa applications by mail, but we always encourage you to drop it off in person if you can. So that's the end of, oh, and one other thing which is very important, the visa application processing time is 60 days. So this means that it can take really up to 60 days to process your visa, and the fall semester is definitely the busiest time for the Czech embassies. So probably it will take the entire 60 days to process your application. So I encourage you to submit your application by the middle of June if possible, but absolutely no later than the end of May or end of June should you submit your application. That's super important. This will be the way that you can be sure that your passport and visa will be processed and sent back to you in time for your departure and your arrival in Prague on September 4th. I hope that makes sense. I'll send out email reminders as well that you should have your visa application submitted, but this isn't something you want to procrastinate on, and I mean that very seriously. It happens every semester where a student thinks that it will be processed faster and they have plenty of time, and then it sneaks up on them, and then they have to come to Prague late or not at all because they haven't gotten their visa. So that can be a really big problem. So it's really, really important that you submit your application on time. And I have a question. Can we go back to the visa application page 3 on the bottom? Yeah, so I will go back to the document so that we have it up. So on the sample visa application form number 35, the question was what we put in the health insurance box. So Micah, maybe you can tell me when they should receive their health insurance forms, if you can type it in the box or speak it.
Wait, sorry. Okay. As students, they will get a package with all the documents together. So you will get the accommodation letter, the letter from Charles University, and the insurance package together. So you will receive a big envelope from Erin, and that will have everything in there. And she usually sends it out as soon as she gets the documents from our Prague side. So it should all be coming together. Okay. Let me know if you haven't received anything or you have partially received things, then I would follow up.
Perfect. So once you receive that package, in that package you will have a health insurance contract, and there's an expiration date on that health insurance contract, and that's the date that you need to put in the date boxes in number 35. So if you've received it already, then you have that date already. If you haven't already received your package, then when you receive your package, you should go back to page 3 and insert the date of your health insurance expiration. I hope that's clear. But yeah, so that will be coming to you. You're welcome. Okay, so we'll go on to the next, but if anybody has any other visa questions, please stop me and I'm happy to go back to explain anything, because this is really the most important information that we'll cover today. So yeah. I don't see any other questions, so I'll go ahead and continue. So the next thing that I just want to talk to you about briefly are the ECES program dates. So you can see the full calendar here. This calendar is also available on our ECES website under Program Overview, so you'll have access to it to check until you arrive. So I'll go through what orientation will look like more specifically, but you can see that at the beginning you have orientation and your pre-semester Czech language course. And then courses begin, regular elective courses begin on Monday, September 25th. So that's a couple of weeks after you begin, about 3 weeks after you begin. So you have 3 weeks to get acclimated, to learn a little bit of the Czech language, and then you start classes. And you actually have a long weekend that first weekend, which is Thursday, September 28th. There's no classes, so from Thursday, September 28th until the end of that weekend you have off. And then you have until Thursday, October 5th to finalize your schedule. So any classes that appear on your schedule on Friday, October 6th will be on your final transcript with no exceptions. So you have until course registration begins on July 2nd until Thursday, October 5th to add and drop courses, and you need to finalize your schedule by October 5th. That's really important. Then on November 10th, because we have a national holiday on a Thursday, which is when we have classes, there will be one Friday makeup day on Friday, November 10th, when you'll have mandatory classes to make up for the national holiday. So keep that in mind if you're planning any travel. With that being said, I encourage you not to plan independent travel before you get to Prague and before you finalize your schedule. This has been a really big problem in the last, I would say, year or two, where students are planning a lot of travel before they come to Prague, and then they end up with grades that they're not happy with at the end because their grades have been lowered as a result of missing classes because of travel. And this isn't an acceptable excuse as per Charles University rules. So please keep in mind that you should wait until you finalize your schedule before you plan travel. And I'll explain how the attendance policy works a little bit later. December 4th through 8th is what we call reflection week. So this is a time when you're required to attend at least one workshop outside of your regular classes, and regular classes continue to meet that week and actually through the end of the semester. And then the last week we usually have a farewell party in the evening, and then the fall semester will end on the 15th and you may leave on the 16th. So like I said, classes are scheduled until the very end of the semester, so until December 14th, and finals will be given within your class time. So we don't have a final block schedule because not every class has a final exam. Some have final papers or presentations or whatever it is. So you'll just attend those exams or have those papers due sometime during the last 2 weeks of class. In terms of the academics, so I'll go over in a bit how the registration works, but first I want to mention how what exactly you can register for. So you can sign in for up to 5 courses, and this includes the mandatory Czech language course. So that means you can have 4 electives during the regular semester plus the pre-semester Czech language course, and this is 18 credits total. So these courses, we try and schedule them in blocks. So we follow the Charles University scheduling, which means that there's specific times that the courses meet, and we try and make it so that as few courses conflict as possible, but of course it's impossible to ensure that no classes conflict. So I promise that we do our best to make sure that doesn't happen, but keep in mind that it is possible that some courses will conflict, certainly. The other important thing to mention is that courses at Charles University have a much more independent style of learning. So this means that when you're looking at the syllabi for our courses, you may see that there's not a lot of assignments. You may have just 1 or 2 assignments for the entire semester, and that will constitute the grade for your entire course. And this is the Czech academic culture. So it's really important that when you're looking over the syllabi, you don't look over the syllabi looking for courses which seem easy because they only have a few assignments. This is another thing that we hear from students at the end of the semester, that they wish that they had looked at the course content over course assignments, because the assignments that are due don't necessarily indicate the work that you'll have to do for the class. All of our classes require a lot of reading outside of class, and it's important that you do that reading in order to be successful during the class periods, to participate in discussion, to be able to answer the teacher's questions, to be able to be successful in your presentations and on your exams, etc. So please look at your syllabi, read the entire syllabus for each class you're interested in taking in its entirety. Don't just read the course description, read the whole thing. Make sure you understand exactly what that course will require, because it may look easier than it really will be. So it's important that you take classes that you need and that you're interested in taking, and not the ones that seem like they will be easy. The other thing I'll mention is that these courses require a lot more personal responsibility than you may be used to at home. Your professors will not harass you to complete assignments. They will not ask you if you understand everything or if you need help. They will rely on you to ask for help. So our professors are incredibly approachable. They're very used to working with foreign students, and they really enjoy working with foreign students. That's why they teach for us. But they rely on you to let them know if you need help. So I'm mentioning this now because it's also important for you to know before you register for classes that in case anything is ever unclear for you or you need more instructions, you need clarification on an assignment or a point that was made in class, that it is your responsibility to go to the professor. It is not their responsibility to come to you to ask if you need help. So please keep that in mind. I'll go over this again during orientation. But I'm mentioning it now so that you can keep it in the back of your mind when you start to look at classes after the schedule is released. So our attendance policy is also very important for you to know in advance. Each ECES class allows you to have 180 minutes of unexcused absences before your grade is lowered. So almost all of our classes meet twice per week for 90 minutes, 1 hour and a half, which means that you can typically, for most classes, miss 2 classes before your grade is negatively impacted. For those classes that meet once per week for 3 hours, you may miss 1 class. So this means that you can miss 1 week of classes without being negatively penalized. If you need to miss extra days because you're sick and you visit a doctor, if you present a doctor's note to us, we can excuse your absences. But every absence that is unexcused after this allotted limit will lower your grade by 1/3 letters. So this means, example, from an A to an A minus or a B plus to a B. So it's important for you to realize that. And you need to attend at least 70% of the classes. Excused or unexcused absences cannot exceed 30% in order for you to receive a passing grade for the course. This means that these unexcused absences that you're allotted should not be used for independent travel. Charles University considers it inappropriate to excuse absences for travel. We expect that you attend this program because it is an academic study program. And so you should not plan to use those unexcused absences for independent travel. You should save them in case you get sick and you don't want to see a doctor, or in case you're coming back from a trip on the weekend and your flight is canceled and it turns out you won't get back until Monday night when you thought it would be Sunday night. These things do happen, and they happen every semester, and we cannot excuse independent travel for any reason. So you should save these allotted absences in case you're sick or you really need them in case of emergency. So I hope that's clear, but in terms of course registration will begin at midnight on Sunday, July 2nd, which means on the East Coast of the U.S. it will be 6 p.m. So check where you'll be on July 1st, 2nd to see what time it will be in your time zone. Spaces in our courses are given on a first-come, first-served basis, so if there are specific courses that you need and want to take, you should be available online at the time course registration begins, because a lot of the time courses will fill up during this registration period. Most often they tend to open up after the add drop period, after everybody arrives in Prague. But if you want to be sure that you're getting into the courses you need, you should be available online when registration begins. But with that being said, of course, we can't guarantee that you get into any specific course. So we encourage you to get the courses you'd like to take approved in advance, but also extra courses in case you need to revert to a plan B. You have some extra courses, and it will be a lot less stressful for you once you realize that the first choice you had was full. You can go to your plan B and register for the next course, which is already pre-approved. When you're registering for courses, if you get to the course and it's already full when you go to register, and you register for it, you'll automatically be added to a wait list. And so if there's a course that you really want to take, I encourage you to add yourself to the wait list as soon as possible, because this will give you the best chance of getting into the course. Like I mentioned, a lot of students sign in for more courses that they plan to take and then sign out of some spaces once they get to Prague and start finalizing their schedules. So it is possible that in some classes you will get off the wait list, but we can't guarantee it for any specific class. So the higher up on the wait list you are, the better, and the more courses you have approved, the better. The academic board is reviewing the list of proposed courses from our professors as well as the spring 2017 evaluations as we speak. So this means that the course list will be available roughly in the beginning of June, middle of June, and that will be the course list, all of the new syllabi, and the schedule. So I know that we have some professors which have proposed new courses, which is really exciting. Some of our normal favorite courses should be available, but we'll have the final approved list from the academic board in June prior to registration. Okay, so in terms of orientation, yes?
Can you, I wanted to add, you know, there was maybe a bit of a conflict because you're looking at the AIFS website for courses, and there's of course the ECES website, which you know, Katie was referring to. As soon as the courses are approved, it's always recommended to kind of like take the ECES website where you have your login, and you know, you will like receive the course list from Katie as kind of like the confirmed list of courses, with kind of like updating the courses on the AIFS website. So for now you can see what has been offered, but as Katie just mentioned, some things might change. So use the AIFS one for your reference, but kind of like rely for the confirmed courses on the ECES website, please.
Yeah, exactly. So once the list is approved by our academic board, this is actually the final list. So anything that's available on either the ECES website or AIFS website at this moment is only a sample list based on what's been available in the past. As soon as the new list is available to you online, I'll be sending everybody an email so that you can go check out which are the courses that will actually be offered in the fall. Okay? So in terms of orientation, your arrival day is Monday, September 4th, but the university itself doesn't have any activities for you that day. AIFS, I know, probably will be in touch with you that day, I imagine, but we will start being in touch with you on Tuesday, September 5th. So this is the day that you will obtain your Charles University student ID card, and also you'll attend our welcome meeting, which is our official academic welcome to you from the university, from the chair of the academic board and from myself and my colleagues. So this is the day when you'll get your first taste of the university. And then on Wednesday, actually you won't be obtaining your transportation pass on Wednesday because you'll have it already from AIFS, so you don't need to worry about that, but we will be giving you a chance to practice using those transportation passes through an event that we call the Prague Scavenger Hunt, which is a chance for you to explore Prague in small groups with a local Czech student and to find some of the popular tourist sites, but also some unknown landmarks to help you get to know your new city. And the Prague Scavenger Hunt will then end at a river cruise on the Vltava River. You can see in the picture it's a really beautiful way to spend the evening, so you'll be provided here with dinner and a good chance to get to know all of the ECES students. I should mention as well, we didn't mention it in the beginning, but you guys are ECES students. You are participating fully in the ECES program, but you are not the only ECES students. We have students from universities all over the country and in some cases internationally that will be attending the program. So right now we have about 85 students registered total for the fall semester. So you're about half, roughly half, a little less than half of the total number of ECES students. So these activities are designed to also let you get to know these other students who will also be taking your classes with you. And then your first class begins that Thursday. So you can see at the bottom of my screen a orientation schedule, which hopefully will help you visualize exactly how orientation will go. So again, you'll arrive on Monday, which is September 4th. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, you'll have orientation. And then Thursday, Friday of the first week, you'll have the beginning of your Czech language and culture course. So this is a mandatory course for all ECES students. It's worth 3 credits in the US. And there are 2 options available. The first option is intensive Czech language, which is for a letter grade, grade A through F. And the second option is the intensive Czech language, which is for pass-fail only. So if you're planning on taking Czech for the entire semester, you're required to take the letter grade. Also, if your home university requires that you prove that you got a certain letter grade in a class in order for the credit to transfer back, you must take the intensive Czech language for a grade. This is because for the pass-fail option, we cannot tell you which letter grade that you got, which meant that you passed. The course is not graded that way. It's graded only with pass or fail. So if you need, for instance, a C or better in order to receive credit at your home institution, you must take the Czech language course for a grade. So when you're registering for courses, you'll see those two options on our website, and you'll be able to decide between them. But I encourage you now to check with your home university and academic advisor. You can also check with Micah and Aaron at AIFS because they have a small list of universities that they work with that they know require this letter grade. So check with everybody and make sure that you know what you're signing up for before you sign up for it. So this way, at the end of the semester, you're not stuck missing credit for 3 credits for one of your classes. So on that first Thursday and Friday, you meet your Czech language class, and then again for the next 2 weeks on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. On those 2 Wednesdays, you have day trips with the ECES program, so this is with all of the students in the program, and these are also a mandatory part of orientation. They are day trips to places outside of the Czech Republic which are of cultural or historic interest and value, and it's a chance for you to take a break from learning Czech language and learn a bit more about the culture and the history, but also it gives you a really good insight into why the Czech Republic is the way that it is because of these other places, events, and people. Based on this calendar, you can probably see that on the first 3 Fridays of the program, you do have class. And I want to be really clear about this. These Friday classes are mandatory. So every other week, except for that one makeup day, you have classes only Monday through Thursday. But the first 3 Fridays, you will have class. And you'll be assigned to a Czech language class based on professor availability and based on which type of class you sign up for. So either you'll be assigned to a morning session or an evening session, and I won't be able to tell you which one until you arrive in Prague. So it's really important that you do not plan travel for these Fridays because you will have class. And if you miss more than one of these classes, you will fail the class. And that is really important. It's only a 10-day class and it's worth 3 full credits. So obviously each class is really valuable towards the number of credit hours that you're taking. So every other weekend except for that mandatory makeup day weekend, we're happy to have you travel independently, and we even encourage you to do so. For these first 3 weekends, I encourage you to take some time to travel within the Czech Republic and within Prague. We'll be providing you with a booklet of different day and overnight trips that you can take in Czech Republic, and actually you'll have the best weather in September to explore the country, so you can take this opportunity to explore some of these places while you're getting acquainted with the Czech Republic. Somebody asked, what should we do September 4th to check in? This is actually information that will be provided to you by AIFS because they'll be helping you check into the Masarykova dorm. And so if you haven't already received that check-in information, I'm sure that either Micah or Aaron will be sending it to you. But on September 4th, they will be helping you check in to the dorm. Okay, so I don't see any other questions coming in. In addition to those day trips, we have some optional trips. So I know that AIFS offers a lot of optional trips as well, but the university offers some, and as ECES students, you're more than welcome to participate in these. This is just a sample list of things that are available to you. And actually, we'll announce all of our trip options available on the website in advance of the semester. Micah says we'll send out a lot more emails before arrival day, but you'll get check-in information closer to the date. So just so you know, you'll be receiving check-in information closer to the arrival date. So we'll be announcing these optional trips and activities on the ECES website before the arrival this summer, and you'll actually be able to register for them on our website before you get to Prague. So you'll be able to sign up for them in advance so that you know which days and weekends you're booked with trips and which trips you've gotten onto. And then once you arrive in Prague, you'll be expected to submit payment in cash for these trips in my office. So all of that will be explained a lot more when we get closer, but just so you keep it in the back of your mind in case you want to attend any day or weekend trips with the university, you'll be able to do that and you'll be able to sign up for them in advance. In terms of some cultural considerations, these are some important things to mention to you just to keep in the back of your mind before you come to Prague, and hopefully it will actually inspire you to perhaps do a little bit of research. We'll be sending you a lot of resources that you can check out before you get to Prague to help you transition to the culture here. The first thing that you'll notice, and that's important to know, is that Czechs aren't as open to strangers as Americans tend to be. So this means that that it may be a little bit more challenging to, for example, make local Czech friends. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but it does mean that you'll need to put in some effort in order to meet local Czechs and to make Czech friends. Czechs aren't the kinds of people who will meet somebody for the first time and then will consider that person a friend immediately. They are more the type that will meet somebody for the first time and then maybe we'll see them a couple of more times and then finally they'll consider you a friend. And Czechs don't really have acquaintances as such. Either you're friends with a Czech person or you're really not. And so once you have a Czech friend, it's amazing. They'll do absolutely anything for you, but you have to keep in mind that you have to work for that relationship a little bit. It doesn't necessarily come as easy as it might do in the US. So we'll send you different ways that that's provided to you by the university to meet local Czech students. But keep in mind that it's not something that we can actually facilitate for you. You will have to put in some effort in order to make local Czech friends. Another thing that's important and to know is that restaurant etiquette and the service that you will receive in restaurants is different than it is in the US. The Czech Republic is not a customer service oriented country, so you will not be waited on hand and foot at restaurants or essentially anywhere else. But instead, the people at restaurants and at other establishments will do their job and that's essentially it. So they will bring you your food and then they'll bring you your bill. They won't stop by a million times to refill water or ask you how you're doing. They will do their job, and that's it. They won't go above and beyond, and that's just the culture here. So it's really important to realize that it may be shocking at the beginning, but it's something you get used to, and actually I sort of prefer it now. As you can tell, I'm not Czech. I'm from the US originally. I'm from New York, just outside of New York City, so it took me some time to adjust, but I've now been in Prague for almost 3 years, and yeah, this is something you definitely get used to. Another important restaurant note is that tipping isn't as expected here as it is in the US. The usual tip in Czech Republic is 5 or 10%, or you can even just round up, something like this. So while the service isn't as great as you might expect it to be at home, also you're not expected to tip as much. In terms of public transit, this is important only because it's something that you'll probably notice and be confronted with immediately. Many Americans have this reputation in Prague and in Czech Republic and even all over Europe of being loud and sort of, in some cases, obnoxious. It's this ugly American stereotype. And this comes to play most often in public transit. So when you get onto a tram and you're with a group of friends, people in the program, and you're being kind of loud and everybody's staring at you, you should just be aware when you first get to Prague, when you're in public spaces, that you should try and blend in as much as possible. Be aware of what people are doing around you and try and fit in. This is the best way that you'll be able to immerse yourself in the culture, learn about the local culture, and meet local people. So yeah, and in terms of classroom etiquette, we discussed academic culture a little bit, but in terms of classroom etiquette, this is something that's also pretty important for you to know, which is that it's a more formal style of learning here, so professors are treated with a lot of respect. That's a very important part of the culture in Czech Republic. So for example, if you come to class a couple of minutes late, if you're running late that day, in the US you might just slide into the back, sit down and try and be quiet and not say anything. But in Czech Republic you should actually apologize to the professor and say, you know, I'm really sorry I'm late, and then come and sit down and be quiet. You're already creating the distraction, so they actually expect you to apologize, for example. Another thing is that it's kind of expected that you dress a bit nicer, so pajamas aren't really acceptable in classrooms, and also you're not really expected to be eating, especially full meals in class. Water and coffee is okay, that sort of thing, but eating isn't really appropriate, and also using your laptop isn't the most well-received practice in Czech classrooms, especially if you're using it for things other than taking notes. So be aware of that when you get here, especially for your Czech language class. And again, I'll go through all of these things once you arrive in Prague, but just to inspire you to do a little bit of research so that you can realize that the culture is quite different here, these are some good notes. And the last things that I have to mention for you are just some practical considerations that have come up in the past. The first being that you should definitely call your credit card company and your bank before you come to Prague to let them know that you'll be traveling. This is important because every semester it happens where at least one student, but usually more, don't do this, and then their bank turns off their credit card, cancels it because they think it's being used fraudulently. So you definitely want to call all of your banks, all of your credit card companies to let them know you'll be traveling, and tell them you'll be traveling to other countries in Europe as well. So if you don't know which countries in Europe you'll be traveling to, tell them every country in Europe. It really doesn't matter as long as you let them know that you'll be in other countries abroad so that they can put the note on your account, and hopefully it means they won't flag your account as being used fraudulently. Another note is that you should buy European-style adapters for your electronics. So I know that AIFS provides some at the dorm, but I recommend that you buy a couple to have with you. The European style plug is shaped differently than the American one, so the best thing for you to do is actually buy these in the US. It's much more difficult to find them in Prague because Czech people don't need them that direction. They need Europe to US. So it's important that you get those before you come. Also be really careful with heat-producing appliances, things like hair dryers, hair straighteners. I have a horror story. When I was studying abroad, I went to London for a weekend and I was using a voltage converter, which is meant to handle the voltage conversion that you need because the voltage here is stronger. But for whatever reason, the voltage converter didn't work, and I plugged my hair straightener into it, and without realizing it, it got so hot that it actually melted my hair, which I didn't know was possible before this happened, but it is possible, and that's what happened. This can also be a fire hazard, so we encourage you to buy these things when you get to Prague just for safety reasons. The other thing that I'll mention that will be really important academically is to start learning Czech. It may seem like a really lofty goal, but there's a lot of really great resources out there to help you do this before you get here. And even if you can learn some basic phrases and maybe even the pronunciation of the different sounds in the language, you'll be way better off for your first Czech class, but also just existing in Prague. Right now, I recommend the app called Memrise. It's kind of similar to Duolingo, but they have English to Czech lessons right now where Duolingo does not. So if you're familiar with Duolingo, they don't currently have that. Although apparently in July, they'll be releasing a beta version of English to Czech lessons. So keep checking throughout the summer to see if Duolingo releases that. But in the meantime, you can start with Memrise just to get yourself started and familiar with the language. And the last thing that I'll mention is an official Charles University recommendation, which is to get an ISIC card. This stands for International Student Identity Card, and most Czech Charles University students get one. It's a discount card that you pay for, and it gives you access to discounts all over Europe that are meant for students. So you'll have your home university student ID and your Charles University student ID, but there are still some discounts that are only accessible to students with this ISIC card. So the card I think costs around $25 or $30, and you need to buy it in the US. You cannot buy it in Prague. It takes about 3 weeks to get to you via mail, so I encourage you to just do it now if you plan to do it. And you can actually go to their website, which is listed here, to see which kinds of discounts they have available. And if you think that these will be valuable to you, then you should go ahead and buy the card. Yeah, most students, I would say, get one and use it all over Europe for different discounts, entrances to museums, hotels, hostels, etc. Okay, so that's actually the end of what I have for you. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer at this time? I don't see any coming up in the box. Before course registration starts, I'll be in touch via email with more details about how exactly you should go about registering for courses. But again, that won't be until the beginning of July. So once the course list and course schedule is available online, I'll send a lot more details to you about that. And if you have any questions about courses or about academics, getting course approvals, all of that kind of stuff, please feel free to reach out to me via email. I'm more than happy to help with anything in advance of your arrival, as I'm sure that Micah is too on the non-academic side. But if nobody has any other questions, we'll go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you guys so much for coming. You'll be receiving a copy of the webinar via email as a YouTube link so that you can go back and check the visa information in case you need it. The other thing I should mention is if you want to have somebody proofread your visa application before you submit it, you can send it to me via email, just scan it over, and I'll take a look at it to see if I notice any mistakes in the application before you submit it. This way, you'll submit as accurate a copy as possible. All right, so thank you all. I hope that you have a good day or evening, depending on where in the world that you are, and have a good summer. I'll see you in September.